On the call today, you might notice some familiar faces if you've worked with Xeris before. I will kick it off with discussing the top key new Marketo roadmap items. Hannah will be discussing all things interactive webinars, and Ali will touch on the AI enhancements with dynamic chat. And then Liz will be showing us a demo of the new email designer with Gen AI, which I know is what most of you are probably looking forward to seeing today. And then we will save some times for questions at the end. So I just quickly want to touch on the innovation with Marketo over time. So Adobe is more committed now more than ever than to investing innovation in Marketo Engage. And here we can see that I have circled Smart Campaigns on the left there, which is the engine that drives Marketo. And everything that has been enhanced over the past 5 years has had a direct impact on Smart Campaigns. Additionally, all the items in blue have brought in AI functionalities, and that takes your smart campaigns to the next level. So let's just discuss AI a little bit more. So AI is unlocking lead-based journeys at scale, and Adobe is focused on three main things when it comes to the enhancements on the roadmap items. So first, channel expansion. For example, chat, move buyers through the funnel faster with Gen AI features like intelligent assistant and conversational agents. Uh, Content velocity, Gen AI authoring, playing around with different AI generated content or images to capture the voice and design in just minutes that you're looking for, or even summarize webinars, which we might be able to do here later today. Um, and then data explosion, so calculating ROI on multiple channel campaigns, webinar analytics, and even in the new Salesforce V2 integration. Lastly, I do want to note that the new email designer that we will be showing you later today is the same exact email editor that you can find in Adobe Journey Optimizer. It just is enhanced with all of the Marketo features that Marketo has to offer. So it's really taking things to the next level. So let's dig into what is exactly launching in those three key focus areas. So as you can see, there's a big enhancement. A lot of what has come with on-demand channels has been launched, and then there's a couple things for 2025 yet to come. And then content is a big key feature for 2025, and quality data as well. Um, and then if you have any questions about what your package entails, because there are a few things that might already be coming with your package. So for example, interactive webinars, the select package does include 12 webinars per year, while the Prime includes unlimited webinars. So if you have Prime, you get 12. And then if you have if you have Select, you get 12. If you have Prime, you get unlimited, and we can help set those up for you if you're interested. Dynamic chat, that includes live agent and conversational forums. You get 100 engaged conversations for those with Select and above. And then that also includes sales routing, sales calendar integration, sales agent, workbench, automated chat, and more. The one thing to note with that is Gen AI is only included with Prime. So if that is something that you want, then that will be something you'll need to reach out to your Adobe SAM for. So feel free to reach out to us or your Adobe SAM if you have questions about what your current package entails. Now I'm going to kick it off and hand it over to Hannah, where she's going to discuss all things interactive webinars.
Thanks, Reagan. Yeah, so as she said, I'll be going over interactive webinars, and first up is the developments with the engagement dashboard. So after you give your interactive webinar, you will see the engagement dashboard feature pop up on your program screen. And this details how many people registered for the event, how many people actually attended. For example, the duration in which they stayed, so that average amount of time there where you had your peak amount of attendance. And it also tracked additional interactions and activities. So for example, if people engage with poll questions or download some of the content from the webinar, or if they click on some of the web links given throughout the webinar, then that is all metrics that will be calculated here. One of the new features that will be rolled out is also tracking when people leave your webinar site. So if people navigate to a different screen, you are able to see how many people are truly engaging with the content. So all these main features are put together in hopes to increase your lead generation and assist your sales team by providing those qualified leads and in turn increasing your ROI. And next is the on-demand features. So on-demand enables you to interact with your audience post-webinar. Adobe will record and store this webinar for your customers to access up to 30 days after you give the webinar. And the new features highlight just and promoting that new activity. So with the generated summaries, this encapsulates all the information gathered throughout the webinar and boxes up in a nice summary for them to read through and access at any point after the webinar and to copy and save elsewhere. One of the new features as well is the video chapters. As you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, it highlights the main conversation points throughout the webinar. So this is a great navigational tack for the customer to navigate through the webinar and look for that specific content, whether they are first timers watching it or if they just wanted to go back and rewatch some of the information that was shared. And lastly is the AI generated facts. This provides just those answers to those commonly asked questions that were proposed throughout the webinar. And all of these new components will help increase your overall customer engagement after the webinar and improve your new UI for this interactive webinar feature. And with that, I will hand it off to Allie to talk about dynamic chat.
Thanks, Hannah. So yes, Adobe Dynamic Chat Prime has some new updates using Gen AI. These enhancements really make your instance more dynamic and efficient for those dialogues and conversation flows. So the first thing I'll highlight here is the smart responses. So dynamic chat you can enter specific URLs or topics, and AI is going to pull the content from those URLs to generate relevant questions and responses to your audience right away. So that's pretty much completely automated through your response library, which is a great addition to those dialogues and conversation flows. Real-time conversation summaries are another add-on, and these give chat agents and your sales team quick context and a summary about what was discussed in that dialogue. And those are available to see right in your agent inbox within Dynamic Chat. And another perk of that is it's all stored on the person's record in the Marketo activity log, which is great as well. There's faster bot learning, and AI is improving by learning from user interactions. It's going to update your response library and refine the FAQs and pull in unanswered questions to improve future interactions and responses as well. Another new addition is personalized content. So AI is going to deliver real-time offers and recommendations based on those live chat interactions. And this is just going to give more dynamic content to the end user and offer those recommendations for them. The last big point are the actionable insights. So this is going to allow for some more filters and triggers within Smart Campaigns. It's going to collect discussed topics and put those on the person record, and you can pull in different topics that were discussed and pull all those into a smart list or use those in a smart campaign to gather a group of people that maybe discussed a certain point of content. So those are the main AI powered upgrades. And again, this is all on Dynamic Chat Prime. And with that, I will hand it off to Liz to discuss the editor.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. Yep, like she just mentioned, so I'm going to be diving into the email designer with Gen AI. For the most part, I'm going to actually be in the tool itself. So all of the features that it's highlighting on this slide, you're going to actually get to see in action. I will pause after different sections to answer any questions coming in the chat. So as you have a question, feel free to throw it in. I will have intentional pauses to make sure I'm answering those. And then again, at the end of the webinar, if you have any lingering questions, we'll make sure we get those answered. All right, well, to start, I just want to preface with why Adobe is rolling out a new email designer. They're being very intentional with this so that they can have the same experience across their different product platforms. So that's going to be much easier for you as the end user editing and it being used to the same editor across your different tools. This is also great because it allows Adobe to innovate faster. It's going to allow them to drive those key features across all those platforms. So again, you're going to continue to reap those benefits. And as we all can probably say pretty fairly, the editor in general just needs to be modernized a bit. So again, you're just going to continue to reap the rewards of that. Here you can see, I just want to mention briefly that in order to access this new editor as it starts to roll out between now and Adobe Summit this year, you will see this in your design studio if you have already migrated to the new Marketo experience. So that means you're already logging in via the identity management system, right? You'll recognize that as the admin console. And I do just want to make a note that this new editor is not going to disrupt your current editor. They will run parallel, so you don't have to worry about that. Then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Great. Give that a second. Hopefully everyone's seeing my screen. Can I get a thumbs up? Awesome, great, thank you. So obviously right off the bat, you can see this editor is going to look pretty different than what you're used to seeing. So I'm gonna just start by running through some of the different layout changes, some of the updated settings, and then run you through the standard settings before we get into some of those more advanced settings that you can look forward to. So to start, before you're even in here editing the body of your email, you're going to be able to choose if you want to start a new email template from scratch. You can import HTML or you can choose a template. A little side note with that, Adobe is going to be releasing more templates as time goes on, and they are working on a way, they have confirmed, to migrate your old templates from the current editor to the new one so that you won't have to recreate all of those from scratch. All right, well, starting here on the left side, right, we're going to just talk through this nav bar to start. This is a drag and drop editor, which is probably top 3 highest requested updates that we've seen for an email editor. You can see here at the top, we have structures. You're going to be used to hearing those called modules or rows, and it gives you different options as far as what you want to see within those rows, how many columns. So as an example, I'll go ahead and pull this in, right? Pretty straightforward, drag and drop. And you can see now I'm able to add content, right? So over here on the side, we can see the different bits of content that we can add to our new structure. Now, these different elements here, the different pieces of content, they are going to come with pre-built logic and style settings that you can edit code-free. And I'll go through a little bit of those, each of those in a little bit more detail. This next one that we have on this left nav bar, this next tab, it's called fragments. You're probably used to hearing it called snippets. And I think a few of you on the call have even started seeing that come in to your design studio. So if you see that come in, it's very similar. It's going to be reusable email blocks. It's going to be compatible with this new email editor. So you can see here, I have an example that I'm going to pull into that new structure that I added a minute ago. I'm going to choose my footer socials, add it here. It's going to take a second to load, and there you go. Really simple. This next tab, this is going to be where you're able to manage your assets for your email. So you're able to import from your computer, you're able to grab any images housed in your Marketo Design Studio, and you're also able to connect to your Adobe Experience Manager, so your AEM assets. This next tab, this is going to be the overall structure of your email, so you can kind of see how it's laid out. And then if there's something you want to edit specifically and you're having maybe a little bit of a harder time narrowing down to it, you can do that from this tab as well. This next tab is really nice for anyone who's editing an email ever. You can view and manage the links you're using within your email all in one place. So if I were to highlight, let's say this Facebook one, you can see where it's going to highlight that for me. And then this final tab, there's no selection right now. This is going to be one of the more advanced settings I'll get into a little bit later, but this is going to be your conditional content, which again is a new name for something you're already familiar with that you've used before. It's going to be dynamic content. So before I jump back into the components and showing a little bit more on editing the email body, are there any questions on navigation up to this point? Okay, perfect. Going back to the components tab here, I'm going to showcase how to edit a few of these different things. Before I do that though, I want to highlight over here on the right side, we have settings and styles that you can see on this right tab, and these are going to be for your email globally. So these are global settings where here you're able to add your pre-header. This little guy right here, this is going to be the new icon you can get used to for adding personalization, so adding new tokens. And then down below here, we have governance settings, which allows you to make sure that like if you have a template that you don't want anyone else editing certain pieces of, right? Making sure it's consistent across your entire team, regardless of who's using this template, you can actually go ahead and use content locking. So if you choose to lock pieces of your email, you can do so, and you can decide if people are allowed to add content, if you want them to be able to add structures and content within that, or if they're only allowed to update and add new content to your existing email. You can also choose, if you open this up, that this is read only. Nothing is going to be editable, so you can ensure that no one is changing anything on the email that you've already perfected. Okay, go ahead and turn that off. Clicking on the Styles tab, again, this is going to be styles that are going to affect your email globally. So pretty standard stuff here, background color, text with your font family, size, right? We have it at 580 pixels, and then your margins as well. Okay. Again, feel free to throw in any questions as they come. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and keep rolling. First piece of content that I want to show you guys is, right, I'm going to click on this column. I'm going to click on my text content, and there's a couple of different ways that we're going to be able to edit this. So here you can see I have a style bar directly under the text that I can edit in line. Some of these icons you'll have to get used to, otherwise they're pretty straightforward. Otherwise, over here on the Styles tab, you can make these same edits over here. It's laid out maybe a little bit cleaner if you're more of a visual person, where we have, again, background colors, text styles, so on and so forth. And then you also have padding. One other thing I want to point out that is you're going to see for your different content style tabs is an advanced editor. So this is going to allow you to add additional styling, some custom styling, and it's going to require very limiting coding knowledge. And again, that's going to be true of all your different pieces of content. Okay. Here I'm going to choose, it's also still just one column. I'm going to choose to edit my button. Oop, not yet. I'm going to choose to edit my button. Here you can see under styles, we have, again, background, text, specific element styling that's going to be, specifically for buttons, and so on and so forth. One other thing that I want to point out on this settings tab, for your different pieces of content, here you're going to have, it's called display options. So if I open this up, you can choose for the specific piece of content for this, structure, I want to show this on all devices, or you can choose between desktop or mobile only. Also with a button, right, that's something that you're going to want to be able to add links to. And so you can edit your settings there, including link type, label, add the URL, which you can also personalize, and then choose your target. Let's see, I'll pause for this question. Find an option to change line height. Yes, so one other thing too, Joel, you're able to, if you look here, you can also switch directly to code editor. So yes, you can try that on the advanced editing. Otherwise, I would recommend trying going into the code editor as well. Okay. Moving on to images, there's a couple of things I want to showcase here. So before I get into before I get into the images themselves, I want to touch on this is the first structure that has multiple columns. And on the settings tab, this is going to be reflected with mobile stacking. So it's going to, you can see here, it's giving us a compatibility warning. So I can choose whether or not I want to allow these images and these columns to stack on the mobile version. Jumping into my images right here, I'm going to choose this first one. Right, we're going to have the option to either inline on this style bar. I can change my image source directly, image title, alt text. Otherwise, you can do it over here on your settings tab too. And you can also choose to upload an image from Adobe stock. And again, just to reiterate, you can select an asset from your Marketo Design Studio, from your Adobe Experience Manager assets, or you can import media directly. Let's see, are there a few more questions coming in? I would
Yes.
say for an email. Oh, yep.
I was just going to read it out loud so people who can't see the chat know what people are saying. So for the background color options, are you also able to add an image instead of a background color?
Yes, let's see. So first for Scott, I would say yes, 600. Yep, there we go. Ali answered. Just for anyone who wants to also know in the chat who's not seeing it, Scott had asked standard width for an email, 500 to 600, and Ali had already confirmed that yes, we typically see a range from 600 to 640. Perfect. And then let's see, Dorothy's question. Let's see. Yes, so you can see here, I selected the column itself. So if I use maybe this text one as a better example, I selected the entire structure, not just the piece of content inside. And you can see here that I would be able to turn on background image instead of just background color. Perfect. Okay. One other thing that I do want to know as you're dragging in different pieces of content, right? We've gone over some of your more standard ones, your text, your buttons, your images. You are going to have the ability to drag in some of these other ones as needed. One of the ones that I did want to make a specific note on is this HTML. So if you're not as comfortable as moving directly into that code editor itself, you can just drag in a little snippet for HTML and then you can edit just that block directly. Okay. So those are going to be probably the main highlights that I wanted to showcase for your standard settings for the new editor, the main ways that you can stylize, and then the settings that kind of go hand in hand with that. One other thing before I move on to some of the more, some of the other settings and layouts, brand kits are going to be released later down the road. I have also heard that from Adobe, and these are going to be really great for ensuring, right, that your company brand guidelines are being used consistently across all of your emails. So that's something you can get excited for a little bit down the road. Yes. Okay. So Jeff had asked, are you able to set different margins, paddings for desktop versus mobile? If we hop into, where's my mouse? There we go. That's one of the things I wanted to point out actually is on this top bar here. Right now we're in desktop view. Here we can switch to mobile view. So what you had asked for, Scott, of can you, or sorry, Jeff, if you're able to set different margins and paddings for desktop versus mobile, that's going to be at this moment in time, that's still going to be within the code editor. That's going to be some custom styling. And then Scott had asked, can you edit the HTML code of this email? Yes. So besides pulling in that HTML, if you have resources on your team that are good to pull that in directly, want to just add a little bit here and there, you can hit more settings and switch to code editor. So then you'll see the HTML code and edit that directly. Yes. The other thing that we can do while we're looking at how we can preview this email, you can also do a custom preview, which is very exciting. You can look at the dimensions of what you're previewing, as well as you can look here and see some of those different custom devices that we would want to test. Okay, moving back to desktop. Okay, perfect. Yep, you're welcome, Scott. The other thing that I wanted to showcase on this nav bar as we're continuing right through the layouts and settings is simulating content. Again, this is going to be a new name for something you're already familiar with. This is just previewing your email, right? And it's a little bit more in depth of how can I proof out this email. So here we've added some personalization to our email, which I will showcase how to do in a second. But I've added a test profile as Jake Eggers. And you can see here that the email is going to render how Jake would see it in his inbox. So a couple of things that you can do here besides seeing how he would see it desktop versus mobile, you're able to render your email, which is going to be some further testing in Litmus. You can also, if you've already sent out some proofs, you can view the email statistics for that. And then you can also choose to send the proof, which means you're sending this out to your inbox, and I can choose to receive that in my inbox as Jake would receive it in his. Yes, Jake says hello. Awesome. And then as I just mentioned, we just previewed some personalization where it said, hello, Jake. You probably noticed here in my text earlier, I added the token here. The way that you're able to do this quite simply, you choose your text content, and then in this style bar here, again, that icon I noticed, like I mentioned earlier, it says add personalization. That's where you're going to be able to pull in those tokens. Perfect. Also on the setting bar up above, also very highly requested is an undo button. So that's if you make a mistake, you don't have to worry about maybe referring back to the code directly. You can just undo it. Also, while we're on more settings, right, we already talked about switching to that code editor. A few other things that you can do is you can reset to your base template. So if you selected a template and you're editing this and you decide, maybe time to scrap it and start again, you can just reset. You can also save as fragment, right? So those reusable email blocks, you're used to hearing them called snippets. You can do that here as well and choose specific structures that you want to save. You can also change your design. That means that you're able to choose and change the base template that you're actually starting with. And then finally, this is an easier way to just export HTML besides going into the code editor and grabbing that manually. Otherwise, once you're done, you'll go ahead and hit save, and then this template would be ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to pause and see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, I'll be done here with the main highlights, main sneak peek for the editor itself before I jump into Gen AI in the slides again. So let's see. Yes, yep, we can definitely go over that. And Joel, that would be something where even if we don't do today, I know Reagan was going to talk about, we're also happy to meet with anyone on this call individually and run them through any of these new updates and how that's going to impact their system and their operations as well. Okay. Go ahead and share that. Great. So referring back to the slides here, now we're going to start talking about the Gen AI tool that you're going to actually be able to see in use along with the new email editor. So you can see here, this is an example of using it for text and images. You can see on that right nav bar where we were editing our settings, this is where you're going to be able to select that AI assistant. Right, so this is going to be something that we can use for text, images, and then also your subject line. So here, right, once you open up the AI assistant, you're going to either enter your own prompt, which you can see here, or you can choose an option from the prompt library categories, which I'll showcase in just a second. For text, right, you'd go ahead and generate, and there's additional text settings that I'll showcase in a couple of slides that you can continue to refine your selections. And then for images, that's actually going to use Adobe's Firefly to generate some original content for you. So this is an example of, right, on the right, we have, as if this was an image, we're saying, go ahead and show me a loading bar that's 80% full. We have some image settings, some brand assets that we want to manipulate. And then once we're good with that, we'll go ahead and generate that new content. On the left here, this is the prompt library that I mentioned just a second ago. You can see some of the different categories you can choose from to help you out as, just to get started. And here we have selected welcome email. So once you try that and you go ahead and generate, you're going to be able to see this here. So this is going to give you the chance to preview those starting variations. You can compare it against your original content, and then you can actually further refine by updating those settings. So, right, this is an example for text. So we have some text settings to review. Here you can see that we've decided to refine our variation even further by choosing to make the communication strategy FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. From there, you can continue to refine, generate more. Here we've selected variation 1. And then what you can do with that is you can actually either preview it in your email or you can choose to just insert it in directly. Okay, that is all I have for today's sneak peek. So I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions that need answering. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back over to Reagan for next steps on making sure you're going to be ready for Adobe's latest updates.
Sorry, everybody, I was on mute. So what is next? I hope this inspires you to get creative with the new email designer with Gen AI authoring, engage with more customers with features for chat and webinars, and stay on demand or stay on brand with the live link to Adobe Experience Manager assets within the new email designer. So right now I'm going to pull a survey onto your screen. This wouldn't be an interactive webinar experience without a survey. If you could please answer this question, that would be great. And let us know if you would like to book a meeting to discuss any of these new features or to book a personal demo where we can walk you through any of these new innovations to see what it could look like for your team. As always, we are happy to spend some time digging into things on your personal use cases. Now I will stay on to answer any additional questions that might be coming in the chat. If you want to fire away, go ahead. We have some time here. And if you have other things to do with your time, we want to thank you for attending and we look forward to interacting with your teams on all these new Marketo features. So let's answer some of these questions. Yep, Ali has answered one of Joel's questions about how he's not seen Gen AI. I do think that it also has to do with your level of, if you're on Select or Prime, that has something to do with when you will be given access to these features as well on if you have access. So I would double check with your Adobe SAM to make sure you have the right tier that has these capabilities included. You mentioned Litmus is proofing in multiple email clients, something included. I don't know. Does anybody know? We can double check here.
You would have to have an account with Litmus in order to connect to it. But yeah, it is a native integration.
Yep. Yes, I can send out a link for you guys to register for Summit. All the features that we talked about today will be covered at Summit, which is great. You just have a little bit of a sneak peek, so and hopefully that helps you better digest the content that you'll be seeing at Summit this year. I will go ahead and send that out in the follow-up from today's webinar. Is there any plan for allowing connecting to multiple CRM systems? Right now, that is not on the roadmap. However, I do know it is something that they are focusing on with the new V2 for Salesforce connector. There's a couple different integration partners that we work with, like Vertify, to connect multiple CRMs. It would just depend on your use case. But we're happy to talk to you about that. Vertify can have unlimited connectors, back and forth bidirectional connection to and from Marketo.
Joel, so Joel, just for the group, he had asked about when he's ready to send an email in a program, he moves it from Design Studio to marketing activities under the program created, and that he's not currently seeing that option. So Joel, if I'm understanding this correctly, I will say that we do tend to recommend that you have your templates stored in your design studio, right? So kind of what I was just showcasing. And then when you're ready to actually generate an email for a specific program, generating that email directly under the program. And then you should be able to select the template from there.
Yes, Vertify is the name of the tool, and it is a paid integration that is sold on Adobe's paper. We can definitely talk to you about that in more detail if you want to have a one-on-one conversation about it. But it is able to be added on to your annual Marketo contract. Any other questions? We're happy to stay on as long as you guys need. I still see quite a few people here. When is the awesome builder going to be in landing pages? So that's actually what they're working on next, which will be awesome. And forms included in that. There'll be a new version of velocity scripting that will be much easier for people to use. And it will also have drag and drop features. I'm assuming they're going to be teasing this at Summit. We don't currently have any kind of demo to show on it, but I do know it is in the works. Yeah, thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, then I think that concludes our webinar for today. Again, feel free to reach out if you have personal questions for us. We appreciate your time and thank you.